Good morning, students. You're welcome to the class today. The topic before us this morning is skeletal system and supporting tissue in animals. By the end of the class today, you should be able to define skeleton. You should be able to list the three types of skeletal materials, explain the three types of skeletal materials, list the three main types of skeleton, and explain the three main types of skeleton. Definition. What is skeleton? Skeleton can be defined as the framework of the body that aids movement, support, and protect the animal. We want to look at the skeletal materials. That means those materials that constitute the skeleton that skeletons are made of. There are three main types of skeletal materials, namely chitin or cuticle, cartilage, and bones. Chitin or cuticle are found in the outer part of the insects. As we can see, the illustration there is showing different insects. So the outer part is called the chitin. The cartilage and bone. This is found in vertebrates. As we can see, the cartilage is a white tissue there, in between two bones. Chitin. Chitin is a non-living substance that is waterproof. That means water cannot penetrate through the chitin. It is carbohydrate in nature, light, tough, and flexible. Carbohydrate in nature, not heavy, tough, and flexible. It is present in the outer skeleton of arthropods, exoskeleton of arthropods. Organisms with this type of skeletal materials can only grow by molting or exedesis. That means the removal of the outer covering, the old covering, is called molting. Example, as we have seen there before, we have them in cockroach and other insects. Cartilage or gristle. Cartilage is made up of living cells called chondroblasts. It is also carbohydrate in nature and protein. Cartilage is light, flexible, with great tensile strength. It acts as a shock absorber between bones. We have seen that cartilage before, that white tissue that protects the upper bone from getting in touch with the lower bone. Cartilage also constitute the entire skeletal system of fish, of cartilaginous fishes. You can find it in cartilaginous fishes. Cartilage are of different types, basically three. We have the hyaline cartilage, we have the fibrocartilage, we have the elastic cartilage. I'll take that again. Cartilage are of three types. We have the hyaline cartilage, we have the fibrocartilage, we have the elastic cartilage. Bones, that is the third skeletal material. Bones. Bones are found in vertebrates. It is defined as a tissue, and it is the major component of the vertebral skeleton. What we call a tissue is a collection of cells. So collection of cells constitutes bone. that makes up the component of the vertebral skeleton. It is made up of the following materials: living cell called osteocytes, collagen that gives the bone strength, minerals such as calcium phosphate and calcium carbonate, minerals such as calcium phosphate and calcium carbonate. Bone has a shaft and spongy in nature. It becomes hard, bones becomes hard by a process called ossification or mineralization. That means bones can be hardened by a process called ossification or mineralization. Now we can see the diagram of the bone there. The part of the bone shown there is called the femur. Femur is that part of the bone, and the leg, the leg, that's why we have the femur. We can see from that diagram, the femur has nutrient artery. It has articular cartilage, that is where it joins the upper bone there. It has a spongy bone. It is found in the red bone marrow, you can see it there. It is compact, that is the compact part of the bone. And it is divided into 5 parts: proximal epiphysis, metaphysis, diaphysis, and distal epiphysis. So we are advised to look at the diagram of the femur bone, learn how to draw and label it very well to our required dimension. Now, the type of skeleton, we have 3 types. Having defined skeleton as that part of the body that provides rigidity, shape, and structure, skeleton is divided into 3 parts, 3 types. We have the hydrostatic skeleton, we have the exoskeleton, and we have the endoskeleton. 3 types of skeleton: hydrostatic, endoskeleton, and exoskeleton. Let's look at what it means. Hydrostatic skeleton or fluid skeleton. This type of skeleton is possessed by soft-bodied animal. Soft-bodied animal. This soft-bodied animal uses the pressure provided by the water in the body of that organism for movement. Hydrostatic means water. Hydro means water. They are present in soft-bodied animal, like our earthworm. They have foot pressure to provide support. That is what gives them support. Animals with this type of skeletal materials are the earthworm and the sea anemones. Now you will notice that when you want to kill an earthworm, what we do is you add salt to the body of the earthworm. The salt dehydrates the water, and once the water is out, the earthworm becomes dead, and that's why their body is moist always. Exoskeleton. This type of skeleton is present outside the body of animals. Present outside the body of animal. Invertebrates, that is, animals without backbones, have this type of skeleton. A very good example, we have the earthworm, the crab, the prawn, and spider. It is invertebrates. Since the skeleton is present outside the body, we say they have exoskeletal system. Organisms with this type of skeletal system can also grow by molting. I said the other time that molting involves shedding of old skeleton and growing new ones. The old ones will be removed and will be replaced by new one. Any organism that can do this is said to grow by molting. Endoskeleton. This is the type of skeleton found inside the body of animals. It is found inside the body of animals. You cannot see it. It is covered with flesh. It can be found in vertebrates such as lizard, dogs, snake, birds, and mammals. Endoskeleton. Skeleton present inside the body of animals. Example, man. Now we can see the illustration of the human skeleton there. From the skull to the leg. This is the skull. We have the skull there. We have the clavicle, what is called the collarbone. We have the sternum that is attached to the thoracic. We have the ribs. We have the forelimb made up of radius, ulna, and humerus. Bones of the finger called the metacarpals. The femur, the upper bone of the leg, the tibia, and the fibula, and the tarsal. The skeleton of man is divided into two. The skeleton of man is divided into two. One, exoskeleton, made up of the skull and the vertebral column, or what we call the backbone. The exoskeleton, made up of the skull and the vertebral column. The next one is the appendicular skeleton, made up of the limbs and the limb girdle. The exoskeleton, that is the skull. It protects the delicate parts of the body, the brain, and also gives shape to the head. That is the skull, protects the delicate parts of the body, such as the brain, and gives protection to the head. The skull consists of three main regions. What are the regions? Cranium, the facial skeleton, and the jaw. The skull consists of three main regions: the cranium, the facial skeleton, and the jaws. Now that is the diagram of the exoskeleton, the skull. We can see the facial part here. We can see the jawbone here, made up of the teeth and others. So learn the parts of the exoskeleton. The vertebral column. The vertebral columns are the backbones. We saw the skeletal system practically the other day. They are the backbones, and they are made up of 5 different vertebrae. They are made up of 5 different vertebrae. These are the cervical, that is found in the neck region. The cervical is made up of 2 other bones, atlas and the axis. The thoracic vertebrae found in the neck region, the lumbar found in the upper abdomen, the sacral found in the lower abdomen, and the caudal found in the tail region. Those are the 5 vertebral bones: the thoracic vertebrae, the lumbar vertebrae, the sacral vertebrae, and the caudal vertebrae. There we can see the backbones showing the different vertebrae. You can see it, the cervical there, the cervical, the thoracic, the lumbar, the sacral, and the last one. Now, we have these assignments for us. You are to define the skeletal system, to list the two divisions of the human skeleton, to state the components of each division. Do you have a question? You say yes. It's okay. I should go over the first part. It's okay. Let's go back there. Now we said skeletal materials are of three types. Are you getting it now? We have the chitin or the cortical, we have the cartilage, and we have the bones. Chitin, we said, is present in insects, outer part of the insects, and you can see the insects there. You can see the grasshopper, you can see the cockroach, you can see the bedbug, you can see the mosquito. So the outer part is called chitin. Now, cartilage is another component of the skeletal system. Now, the cartilage is this. You can see it is a white connective tissue in between the bones. It prevents the bone from touching one another. So we say the cartilage acts as a shock absorber, preventing bones from rubbing against one another. Then we go to the type of cartilage. We said cartilage are of three types. We have the hyaline cartilage, we have the fibrocartilage, and we have the elastic cartilage. Hyaline cartilage, fibrocartilage, and elastic cartilage. Bone. Bones, as a hard structure of the body, it provides shape, it is rigid. It is present in animals with bone, that is vertebrate. Now we define bone as a tissue, as you can see there, and it is the major components of the vertebral skeleton. It is made up of the following materials: living cells called osteocytes, collagen that gives the bone the strength, minerals such as calcium phosphate and calcium carbonate. Now, the calcium phosphate and calcium carbonate, when you have it in abundance in man or in a baby, it prevents rickets. Insufficient of these minerals cause rickets. Bone is also spongy in nature, and it has a shaft in between. Bones can be hardened by a process called ossification or mineralization. Ossification or mineralization. That is, bones become hard by ossification. That is the diagram of the femur bone. We are to study, learn how to draw properly, and label. Then the type of skeletal system we have seen: the hydrostatic skeleton, the exoskeleton, the endoskeleton. We said hydrostatic are the fluid, soft-bodied animal. Soft-bodied animal like your what? Like the earthworm and the sea anemone. Exoskeleton, we said they are present outside the body of animals. An example is the snail and the crab. Endoskeleton present inside the body. Example is man. That is the diagram of the skeletal skeleton. Division of human skeleton into two, the axial skeleton and the appendicular skeleton. Axial skeleton, we have the backbone and the rib cage. The backbone and the rib cage. Appendicular skeleton, we have the limbs, the forelimb and the hind limbs. Axial skeleton made up of three parts: the cranium, the facial and the jaw. That is the vertebral column. We said is made up of 5 different bones: the cervical vertebrae, the thoracic vertebrae, the lumbar vertebrae, the sacral vertebrae, and the caudal vertebrae. And their locations are indicated there. Then our assignment, we have to define the skeleton. Number 2, list two divisions of human skeleton. Number 3, state the components of each division. State the component of each division. And lastly, we have books where we can read further on this. Get to College Biology by Idodo Women and Essential Biology by MC Michael. Thank you.